Hey, everybody. Welcome into segment number 2 of Operation Love Thy Neighbor with the Parts Counter Gurus. And today we have a very special guest who happens to be a friend of mine who I've gotten to know over the last several years of my relocating to the Pacific Northwest. My good friend Josh Kelly here. How are you doing today, Josh?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful.
Yes.
Keith is here with us as well. As you guys can tell, he's my sidekick. He's always with us. See him over there?
Hey, guys.
See? Right there?
So how's isolation treating you guys? Are you stir crazy yet, or how bad is it at your homes?
Well, Keith has struggles. I'm doing okay. Mine's pretty simple. I have a cat and a wife.
Josh, you have kids, correct?
Yeah, 2 daughters. Yeah.
So I think the interesting thing on social media is the more kids and pets you have, like the harder it gets, the more insanity.
Right.
So I want to know, you guys get into a little bit of how you. So okay, actually, here, let me just take a step back. So here's why we're doing this. So
Yes.
we're trying to put good people out there that are affected in various ways by the COVID-19 displacement. Some of them can't work. Some of them have lost work. Some of them have lost income. Some of them are in various situations. So Jay and I decided to start this series. I guess you would call it, right, Jay?
Yep, it is a series.
And Josh is a pretty interesting dude for a lot of reasons, way
to say the
beyond
least.
what we're doing here. But how did you guys meet? Like, who wants to take this one? It would be interesting to hear it from Josh's perspective. Let's. Josh, how did you guys meet?
Josh, go ahead. How did we meet, Josh? You tell the story.
I mean, I can't say I remember the specific time. So I'm a bartender. Been a bartender for about 4 or 5 years, and work at a place in Anacortes, Washington. And you guys came in. I can't say I remember the exact time. I'm sorry. That's not just you. I don't think there's any customers. I don't know the first time they came.
Don't worry, Josh. I don't remember the exact date either, man.
I'm just going to assume knowing how I do things. You know, I like people. I like talking to people. I love conversations. And hey, are you? All my leading questions with almost everyone is, are you from the area? And so right away get to know. Like, okay, you guys from Nashville. Well, Aaron's from Anacortes, moved to Nashville. You did some recording stuff. And I know for a while I nicknamed you, because sometimes names take a little while, when you have a bunch of different customers. I nicknamed you Nashville.
Oh, that's perfect.
So in my POS on the cash register, basically, when I name the tab, it's just named Nashville. And people go, hey, who's Nashville? Those guys over there. Oh yeah, that's right. So
yeah.
So for a while,
perfect.
You guys are just Nashville, and then you come in. I don't want to give the impression that you're like a barfly who's slobbering at the end of the counter, but you come in, have a beer or two, hang out, and just chat, get some work done, and we've gotten to know each other from that. Just plenty of conversations, and just from all sorts of topics, everywhere from cars to religion to politics. Stuff you're not supposed to talk about in the bar, but I think we do it, respectfully,
Hey,
but you can.
Would
But you
the
can.
Cheers theme be appropriate to play?
Oh,
okay.
I think so, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's how I remember it. And of course, Keith came out and we did a live podcast, and he got to meet you as well, which I'm really happy that happened. Of course, we've all forged relationships because of that. But the one thing that stood out to me, Josh, the most about you is how informative you were with what you were doing. You were able to get your points across to me with any conversation, and you were always listening to what I had to say. You found what I had to say interesting, which I can tell you that there's people out there that really don't, but that's okay. That's why I have a podcast. Yeah. So, but no, it's a mutual respect that we have for each other, I think, and of course that's why this is important to me that we're able to do this for you. Get you on here and have you talk about, what's going on in your life right now since the COVID-19 pandemic.
So,
you want to talk about that, Keith?
Well,
I mean, I can tell the timeline if you want. So
yeah, so Josh works in the restaurant industry. It's technically not hospitality, right?
You call it the service industry.
Service industry.
Okay.
People in it, you call it the industry.
Okay, completely wiped out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
Almost overnight.
interestingly enough, and this occurred to me as I was kind of thinking in my head. So when I met Josh, we discovered that we had similar backgrounds. There was so much to talk about. Like, probably both grew up, and every time the doors of the church were open, our families were there and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
But Josh was focused on trying to do his job, and we couldn't get into a lot of this, ironically, because he was focused on his work.
Yeah, I was looking over my shoulder to see if there's a new customer, if someone needed a beer, that sort of thing.
But that has changed now. So perspective on this, to some, depending on where you are on this side of the coin, you got some pretty sudden news and you were displaced. Interestingly, it occurred to me, and actually after watching one of your videos on your website, you got a little bit of a head start on the rest of us. So not great news by any means that you got, but you got a little bit of a start on the track, and now we're all chasing, the rest of the industry is chasing you.
Yeah, you mean like Washington, how we got hit earlier? Is that what you mean?
Well, or just, here in Tennessee or in Nashville, as you pointed out, they didn't, like a lot of the local food service places, they didn't shut down until a week or two ago.
Oh, wow.
That's true.
So I got one of these from Josh. Josh, you're probably surprised that I still have this. But there it is. You gave that to me when I saw you. And Jay and I were talking last week, and I was like, hey, man, let's go check out his website. And Jay goes, what? And I went, oh, you don't have one of his cards? Jay's like, no. And I went, oh, well, he likes me more than he likes you. So and we may have just lost Josh again, but joshkelly.inc has Josh's website.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff on there that's really, really good. So, Josh, what are some of your other skills that are, people can go check them out on your website, but tell us about that.
So I was a pastor for about 15 years, and towards the tail end of that time, I wrote a book, a Christian living book, and kind of the basic idea of that book is that trying to find some middle point between being like a really judgmental Christian, and then on the other hand, being really loose and not really caring we're Christian in name only. I talk a lot about that, but basically, my experience has been a lot of Christians feel like they kind of have this mindset: if they're not missionaries to China, they can't be really good Christians. That you have to really literally sell everything in order to be a really good Christian, and if you don't do that, then God's kind of a little disappointed with you. And so I wrote a book basically trying to contradict that idea and say, for the majority of Christians, they're just called to be good people, to love God, to serve Him right where they're at, to work normal jobs, and not to get too crazy or kooky. And that's kind of the gist of the book. And actually, I had a buddy of mine who's an agnostic, and he thoroughly enjoyed the book, even from, he says, almost like this Buddhist middle way type thing. I said, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of that. But so there was that.
Can people get that book? Like, is that book still available on your website?
Yes, it's on Amazon. Most of the Amazon copies, you can get the Kindle version easily enough.
Okay.
My book, it went out print, so there's copies out there of the of the paperback. I also have like 4 cases at home, so I'm really happy to sell some copies of that to folks, and you can do that on my website. So again, it's joshkelly.inc, and Kelly is Kelley. And Inc is .ink, like the stuff you write with. Apparently, that's a kind of a newer domain that's popular.
It
with
is,
tattoo.
yeah.
It is. It's very good, and it's very fitting for what you do. And I read the first chapter of that. I got on your website. I read it.
Yeah, you can see the first chapter.
Yeah, and so what's kind of interesting about that book for me was the fact that I've been learning about you these years now. We've known each other now for a few years, and I remember the first time that I met Josh, and and this ties to this book, which is, and I think the first reaction when I asked you what you did, and you told me, and I'm like, oh, there's hope for me. It's and it's recognizing that which is very important.
That remains to be determined.
Yeah. It's a very strong. It's a very important message, and I think that it's an appealing message. I think to some people that may not be appealed in that area. So
think about this for a second, guys. So right now, what's going on? in our current situation. So you're talking about cliffs, and some of those are like a cliff of righteousness, right? So
self-righteousness, yeah.
We've got situations where we can't socialize over food or drink. We can't go to work in the traditional way. We can't go to church in the traditional way. We can't sports, whatever that is. We can get on Twitter and beat people up that don't agree with us all day, I guess. Yeah. But interestingly enough, we have kind of a unique opportunity right now to treat people better and not be so self-righteous. This is just like, even though you wrote this a while back, Josh, like it still has relevance in what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I think that it will be relevant for many years, forever. I
mean, we just all just literally just beating each other up all the time, and I just, like, why that doesn't, nobody went, as we learned from the great philosopher Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, right? Nobody ever wins a fight.
Yeah. Well, and here's one of the things, and I see this, I say this sort of thing specifically about Christians, but it's true about everyone, is we all want to feel a little bit better about ourselves and everyone else. And that's just a reality. Yeah. We want to, in some way, so some Christians have like little things they do, like, well, I don't drink, or I support Israel, or, you just fill in the blank with math. Or you could, like, I support immigrants, or, whether it's a liberal cause or a conservative cause, whatever it is, something that makes you feel like you're a better Christian than the other Christians. And it's the same thing in the entire country in general. Some people are like, well, I'm super strict about social distancing, and and everyone who isn't is evil, and they're stupid, and they're idiots. And there's other people who are like, you guys are all idiots. See, this is just like this flu and blah, blah, blah. And we want to feel better about ourselves. And so we create little tiny communities of like-minded people that we're right and everyone else is wrong. And, certainly as a Christian speaking, I see that if we understood that who we are as, the breath of God, God breathed is, like as Genesis puts it, it's like we shouldn't need that. That should be enough. And then once you're able to say, I'm enough because I'm God breathed, as God loves me. Again, I'm speaking as a Christian. Not everyone holds that viewpoint, but this is me talking. If I got that down pat, now instead of looking at other people's competition, I should be able to look at them as either people to help, people to love, and we can kind of take things a little bit less light, a little more lightly, that realize, a lot of this stuff is kind of secondary. It's not necessarily the most important thing in the world. And yeah, good people disagree with me on politics. Good people disagree with me on all sorts of stuff. And that's not the make or break. So anyway, so a little tangent, but I'm very much prone to tangents.
So, okay, so public speaker, writer, writing coach, right? Mm-hmm. Got some books, working on a book, which we've decided we need to get you back if you'll come back and when that one drops.
Are you still doing the blog? You still doing the blog?
So the blog is very, I realize blogging is just a medium I don't enjoy. I try to do it. And so I keep on trying to do it. And at some point, if you keep on trying to make yourself do something and you don't enjoy it, then you're like, I can spend this time better elsewise. It's something I was trying to do with I have a lot of blog posts that talk about, like, when took this trip around the country about 5 years ago. After my last church closed, we literally sold the house, packed our daughters in our minivan, drove around the country for 8 months. And that was, a huge adventure. So got to go to Nashville. It was a really cool city. Enjoyed that. And
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And so I talk a little bit about that. My wife actually did much better chronicling that whole journey. But then I also did some blogs about writing, because I'm a teacher at heart. I'm a communicator at heart. And if I can teach people to write better, I really want to do that. And so I did do some blog posts that kind of talked about that. But something I did offer up is like being a writer's coach, because there's different types of writing coaches. Some are like editors that like look for commas and punctuation, all that.
Right.
I can edit, but I'd rather beat my head in with a hammer. It's just not my thing. What I like doing, I'm very much of a big picture, look at the whole. I read a lot of stuff quickly, And I can look at like, I've done this like with some writing critiques. It's like, okay, I'm reading something and I'm able to find the 3 major themes that this gal had that she didn't even see were in there. But I was able to sort them. Okay, there's this, and this. This is a good one. And just to quickly, and so that's kind of what I've done for a couple people is just read some of their stuff and just give them, here's some high level stuff to help you understand how to write some things you need to be looking at. And that's fun for me.
Bloggers, you guys that are doing content creation, that have a website, that are writing for that website, or that want to have better on-screen presence.
There you go. Yeah, and that, and what a perfect time for anyone who wants to get into this media, this level of media. Reach out to Josh. He can help you get there, and this is a perfect opportunity. And again, you just go to his website, which is joshkelley.inc. That's INK, and that's Kelly KELLEY. And he's got his contact information is there. You can reach out to him there. Yeah, it's just great, man. It's fantastic. But you kind of made our job a little easy here. Because
you can tell when somebody knows kind of how to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you gotta. I mean, but you have public speakers that are like, don't say 17 times every sentence, like I do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm or man. I'm known as the guy who says man 10 times in one sentence.
Oh, geez.
So where would you like to... Oh, boy, this is tricky because I don't even know that I could answer this. But what are some things that you would be interested in taking on if they came your way, or that you would, like just stuff that you would go, hey, this is a career that I would be interested in if I got an opportunity. What are some of those things, Josh?
Well, number one, I do want to be a full-time writer, and that's it's kind of like being an actor. A lot of people want to do it. Very, very few people can. There's it's not even just about skill. There is a ton of skill involved. You have to really work to hone your craft. But then there's also a certain amount of luck because there's just so much out there. So after I came back on this road trip, I kind of realized I didn't want to be a pastor anymore. Every time I started to look for another pastoring job, I realized the only reason I was doing that was to look for something that made better money or that was more prestigious than bartending. I just started a bar back and work as a bartender just to make some money while I was figuring out what the heck I was doing. And I realized there's a lot of jobs that are okay to pursue because you want to make money. Pastoring's not one of them. That's a bad motivation. You really need to be in it for the right reasons. I mean, it's like, it's one of those careers you really need to be in it for the right reason. When I realized I just backed off. Realized really what I want to do is right. And so I've been bartending this entire time to basically, I like to joke that I bartend to support my writing habit. And so I've been working on this novel for the past like 4 or 5 years that I thoroughly enjoyed. And whereas my first book was a Christian book, it was written to the Christian world, my novel is, we'd call it general market. It's not a Christian book. The characters in it are Christians, but there's swearing, there's sex, there's drinking, and it basically you get to see what life is like for some people. And my basic story is about this new college kid who his big dream is to become the biggest pastor in his denomination, but he still likes to steal porn on the side. And he meets up with this gal at college who's a real sharp gal, but she's from an abusively fundamentalist home. And she's got a history of sexual abuse. He doesn't know that. She's not even telling people about that. But the shame that comes from both of their brokenness really clashes and hurts them. So in many ways, it's a love story, but it's not a romance, because a romance is all about trying to keep them apart and have this heat and all this. This is a story about what happens when two good people, but broken and hurting, when they try to get together, and what you do when those things that break you pull you apart. And it's been a fun story to write because I get to put these characters through a ton of stuff. Like the kid ends up having a one-night stand with his dad's girlfriend. I mean, how messed up is that, right?
Sounds pretty normal, actually.
I'm looking forward to that one coming out. Where are you at in the process of this one?
Sure. So that book is basically done, and now I'm at the querying stage, which what that means is you can self-publish, and a lot of people make money self-publishing. Typically, the model that works for being a successful self-publisher is to write a lot of stuff that's of not great quality. I don't want to. There are people self-publish who write good stuff. So I'm not saying self-publish is bad. I'm not saying that. But in terms of a model that can bring in the money, I had one customer come through at my bar, who he said his goal is to write a book a month. Well,
wow.
I wrote one book in four and a half years.
Oof.
Now I read a little bit of his, and yeah, he's got interesting stuff. It's kind of entertaining. The quality isn't there, but he basically makes 3 cents a copy. That's but he said I've sold like 40 million books or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that all that to say, that's why self-publishing is not the model I'm really going for. If you're going for traditional publishing, then what you do is you find an agent, and just like agents in sports or actors, it's their job. They find a couple of clients that they're really excited about, and they take those clients to the publishers and say, hey, I've got this person I think this book is great. So I'm now in that process of trying to find an agent, and it's kind of painful. I've sent out about 35 queries. I've had one person who wants to see more. They've asked to see the full manuscript, which is encouraging, but it doesn't mean anything.
Sure.
So, in terms of Jay, you're asking earlier, so how can we help you, or how can people help you? If there's just that 1 in a million shot that one of your listeners happens to have some sort of connection to an agent, I would definitely like to know that.
Okay, Parts. Yeah, well, here we go. Hey, Parts Counter Guru fans, anybody watching this, you just heard. If you want to help Josh out, this would certainly give him an opportunity to get this thing rolling, and I'm sure that he would much appreciate that. So, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, just saying, especially depending on how much of your connections are in Nashville, it seems like half the well, I know it's more the music industry, but there's a lot of industry stuff in Nashville. There's actually a writers conference in Nashville that's only about 2 years old, but it's this wonderful blend where it's definitely a lot of Christians in it, but it's not a Christian writers conference. Because a lot of times, and again, I'm going to potentially step on some toes here, but Christian novels a lot of times can be kind of like Christian movies. They're a genre to themselves, and frankly, they're usually not that great in terms of great storytelling. Christians tend to like to have things wrapped up, like things to be wrapped up neatly. They want to see, someone becomes a Christian, then all the problems are solved. Well, sometimes life gets harder after you become a Christian. Sometimes you do stuff that's the opposite of what you mean to do. Sometimes you're a hypocrite. Sometimes, that's where I want to go, and that sort of story does not tend to lend itself to the Christian industry. Again, another little bit of a rant, but that's kind of a lot of why I chose to write, again, what would be called the general market novels, because I want to tell a story that is much more not as settled and as clean.
I think it opens doors for you in that regard by going that way as well, and that's what you're trying to do here is to get deeper into that for sure. So to continue to pursue what you love doing, which is right.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So joshkelly.inc is his website. Josh has got some videos on there, some public speaking examples, links to his books, links to some of his writing. I've got a Barbara Walters question for you, Josh, but before we get to that, what's your Twitter? You want to give out you said you were kind of active on Twitter. Sure. What's your Twitter handle?
Twitter is Josh Kelly, just my name, JoshKelley. It's actually really fun because there's a country musician by the name of Josh Kelly. I think his sister is in Lady Antebellum or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I beat him to the Josh Kelly Twitter handle. So I've actually, and I listed this as an endorsement for my book, is, who was it?
Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice, thank you. Vanilla Ice tweeted, "You rock, Josh Kelly." And so,
there you go.
I listed that as an endorsement, and then put a
for those
comment that,
for those of our audience that do not know who Vanilla Ice is, he's the guy on the DIY network that was smashing up homes and rebuilding them.
So
one hit wonder. Turns out he's pretty good at something else. So.
Right, yeah. So
he's from Miami too, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
So there's a there's a lot of people. I've heard this mentioned several times in the past few weeks, but there's a lot of people that talk about like learning some of their best lessons in life in some of the most difficult circumstances. And I mean, certainly we can. I mean, I could point to hundreds of biblical examples of that. It's very hard to have faith when you're the person on the other side of those bad circumstances experiencing them. But here's my Barbara Walters question.
Sure.
Do you think you're going to come out of this situation with this kind of just being abruptly displaced and this whole like now we're all sort of stuck?
Right.
Do you expect, I'm not asking you to kind of say what you've learned so far, but do you think there's going to be some pretty big life lessons out of this? Or do you expect that?
You know, I don't know. It is sometimes the things that should really shake our world and change us don't make that big of a change. And then it's a little thing that shouldn't be that big of a deal makes a massive change. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times you don't know until the other side what things are going to look like. I mean, as it currently sits, you know, I'm bored out of my skull. You know, I'm trying to find things, keep myself busy. I'm definitely pretty high on the ADHD scale, and not having something to obsess to do is very hard for me. And that certainly is causing me to kind of reevaluate what I was saying earlier about, you know, what my value is it in what I do, because I'm not doing much.
Jay,
you know?
does this sound like anybody else you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's that part of it's very hard, and I'm trying to, you know, basically I keep on trying to find new obsessions to kind of keep myself feeling okay about myself, but that's really not a great.
Yeah.
And but this is just one piece in that whole puzzle. Like basically my ADHD and marriage do not go well together, and so my wife and I have had a lot of pretty significant challenges from that we're working through, and so this time is kind of being a chance to hopefully test things that have been going on beforehand. So to answer your question, again, I don't have an answer yet, and some ways I may not know until, you know, 5 years from now, I'll say, man, that 2 months or whatever it was in isolation, I can really see how, you know, God moved things, how things were, things ended up, it was a necessary catalyst. Mm-hmm. Or it may just feel like, you know, we are good at forgetting. You know, 5 years from now, as a country, we may have more or less forgotten. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, and we do have a tendency to whatever is going on, we assume it is everything,
mm-hmm.
and we have a hard time evaluating anything from the inside.
Right,
like everyone's talking about how different the nation's going to be after this is all over. Honestly, my prediction is 5 years from now, the only difference in this country will be that you'll see more people wearing face masks.
Are you sure you don't want to blog, man? Because this is like, I mean, these are some, in the past 30 minutes, I think I've gotten more like gems of observation than I have all week. Yeah. So,
oh man, I appreciate that. Well, you know, I do tend to say stuff on Facebook that pisses people off. That's a good place as well.
Okay.
That one I don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't leave it as open, but you know, for
right.
people, I need to at least know who they are. But you know,
I'll screenshot them and put them on our feed. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I kind of got in trouble actually with one of the managers at my bar for some of the shit I tried to stir up on the Bartenders Guild. You know, just because it's kind of funny to me. But I do I like being able to say things that kind of provoke thoughts and push things. And
well, that's okay. That's a good thing.
People to think, for crying out loud. Don't just go with what the masses are doing. Actually try to give some critical thought. And that's what I try to teach my daughters to do. And sometimes I say things that are a little obnoxious for the purpose of kind of getting people to think. You know, I also have a sense of humor. My basic sense of humor is that if I think it's funny, I've won, and if other people enjoy it as well, it's a bonus.
Yeah, that doesn't go over. That doesn't go over well at my house. I'm telling you, I live by that, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get stuff thrown at me.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
So I told you I went to your website and I watched a couple of the videos, and you mentioned one thing in one of those videos, and by the way, everybody, please go check it out. Trust me, you'll really enjoy it. But one thing that I got out of it, you mentioned this, is us as humans, as people, as good Christians. If you're a Christian, we want to give, we want to help, people. And it kind of really stuck with me this morning when we were preparing for this, because Keith and I, a couple of weeks ago, when all this stuff started to hit the fan, man, we talked about how we could contribute to society with what we're doing, and help out in some way, shape, or form. And this was the first thing that popped in both of our minds. Let's get people on and have them talk and see if we can help them along the way in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be them coming to your website and buying a book from you, or ordering an hour of writing, writing. Just those sorts of things. Anything we can do to help, that's what we're here for. And I just kind of want to let you know that when I watched that this morning, it really resonated with me, and how important it is to just, if you have something to give, no matter how small you think it is, it's not small, it's something. And people appreciate those things. So you are an example of that, and you have a tendency to want to give your advice and talk about your life experiences, which I appreciate. So there you go. I mean, that's just that's why I think we continue this relationship. So
Jay, go ahead, Josh, sorry.
Oh, just with that, just something, a plug I could put in real quick.
Sure.
Something that's really cool. When the first week was the toughest, as we're trying to get the unemployment stuff all set up, and I was one of the fortunate ones. I applied right away because we saw this come. I got on Monday, so Sunday night. Tell the story a little bit. Friday I was serving you a beer. Saturday and Sunday, someone had given us a couple tickets to Victoria Clipper, which is a little ferry that goes from Seattle up to Victoria, Canada. And we're like, should we still go? Well, yeah, why not? And so we went up to Victoria. So we're actually up in Canada. Some of the stuff is happening. We come back down, and we're in the drive back home from Seattle to Mount Vernon. And that's when my wife sees the news feed about closing the restaurants. So that's how I found out. So I got home that night, started my application, then finished it on Monday. So fortunately, I was able to get it, and things are tight. But once, especially some of the stimulus stuff kicks in, I'm not going to be starving.
So I was going to say, can I interject a little bit on that? Because you're right. You were fortunate because you jumped right on that process of applying.
A lot of people are still have.
And you and I have a mutual friend that I read a post today. After 23 days, this individual, in 122 phone calls, was finally able to get on standby unemployment benefits.
Okay.
Now, this is
I'm guessing that's who. I think I know who you're talking about.
It's a mutual friend of ours, and
so glad to hear that she finally got on.
Yes, absolutely. And see, that's the thing, is that this is what we want to get across to people. This is a real, we have leadership that are saying, here's what you do. And Keith and I are going to be talking about this in another segment at some point.
We got a podcast coming up on
the financial woes.
It's a mess, man.
It's a mess.
The whole situation, from how to file to where to get help to what that's going to take to
some of it, yeah.
Yes, suggestions on how to try things that maybe other people haven't looked at it from that direction. I don't think we've seen the worst of it yet.
Yeah. And I know that we're kind of, because we were the first state, we're kind of now starting. We've passed the curve, basically. It's looking like, based on new cases. But we don't know how long it's going to last. Something I would encourage someone to do. Something that first week before benefits kicked in and things, we had several people give us gift cards, and that made a huge difference. And so if you have everyone's thinking bartenders, obviously, but I'm actually more worried about my hairdresser.
It's interesting you would say that, because the first guest we had on the first episode.
Yeah. Go check it out. Yeah,
I'll check that. And if I'm just thinking, hey, maybe I can get a gift card to her. Just something to kind of help people, especially as they're waiting for everything to kind of get lined up.
Right.
We could be doing worse. We're fortunate in that way. I mean, not easy, but nothing's. We have enough toilet paper and we have enough food. So,
Jay, would you, while we're kind of rolling on this topic, kind of give out the page on our site where these are featured and how to find all that? And
yes. So everybody, if you want to find out about how you can help Josh and watch this episode as well, we'll have a link there. You go to partscounterguru.com/help. And you can get all this information. You can reach out to Josh and previous or anybody else. Links are going to be there.
Books,
absolutely,
all of it. Yep.
Those are ways you can help. And I'll say to anybody out there that's watching this, if you have a similar story and you want to be on our segment of Operation Love Thy Neighbor, please email us. You can reach out to us on Ask Us a Question.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Same web address.
Same web address, and we'll be glad to talk to you and see how we can get you on and accommodate that. But yeah, and you can check. You'll be able to check this out on YouTube.com /Parts Counter Gurus. And again, this series is Operation Love Thy Neighbor, but we also have many other automotive type videos and entertaining videos, pop culture type stuff that we, podcasts that we've done. Please subscribe while you're there and ring that bell and give us a thumbs up. And you can also
learn how to if you want to learn how to navigate a roundabout. I remember watching that one. That was fun.
That was a favorite with the younger crowd for some reason.
It's more than just. Well, for me, I just felt like I had to get it off my chest to people that trying to figure out how to drive through a roundabout. But that's a very good point. But you can follow us on Facebook.com /Parts Counter Gurus. We're also on Instagram. It's Instagram.com /The Parts Counter Gurus. We are now on Twitter, and our Twitter handle is at The Counter Show.
Yep.
So you can follow us over there. So otherwise, PartsCounterGuru.com will get you everywhere.
One more round of plugs for Josh. Look, everybody, Josh has got a whole box of books waiting to be. I expect these to go out the door in the next week. I want that box empty. You can go to joshkelly.inc. And in addition to buying the book, which is still relevant today, you've got access. Josh is for hire. You've got access to a coach. You've got a public speaker over here. This is not his first rodeo. If you are looking for some help on how to do things yourself, just don't ask him to write your blog post for you. You can find him on the same website, joshkelly.inc. What's your Twitter handle again, Josh?
At Josh Kelly.
Okay.
And I will say just quickly even with blog posts, the ones that I've done, what I've been able to help people find is what they're about. Because a lot of people are writing stuff to them it feels like it's just a bunch of different stuff. And as I'm reading, it's like, no, I see what the theme is. I'm all about patterns, and to be able to tell people actually this is what you're doing. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is it, and to be able to give them direction that way. So if that's something you're looking for, try and find what your common theme is. Chances are it's there. You just need a little help.
You need to add another tab on your website that says blogging solutions.
Spirit animal. There you go.
There you go. There you go. So
not his first rodeo, everybody.
No,
I'm telling you. Okay, so I'm gonna with that. Again, everybody, please go check out Josh. If there happen to be any agents out there, right here.
Yep, check him out.
I'm gonna leave you with what my grandma said. I think it's the appropriate way to close these, Jay. My grandma was a big fan of this one. Love one another, you guys. Right now more than ever, please.
Amen,
go read
brother.
Josh's book. You'll learn a little bit about that. So until next time, for Jay over there and Josh, our spirit animal, Josh Kelly, I'm Keith. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you soon.
Take care.